We're with Karen Bass and her modern family for a delicious brunch.
And then some fresh cut fruit.
Prepared by her son-in-law. We're eating inside the Community Coalition, a South LA-based nonprofit Bass helped to form 32 years ago while a young mom.
Who is Karen Bass, the mom?
A very involved mom.
In the 80s, Bass gave birth to Emilia, with then-husband Jesus Lechuga.
We were married for a while, and when we divorced, we believed strongly in keeping the children together. So he had 3 children who have been a part of my life since the day they were born.
Those children include Yvette and Cynthia, who gave us their first TV interview of the campaign.
What does Karen Bass mean to you?
I mean, she means everything to me. She's my mom. One of them, but she's my mentor. She's my confidant. I'm getting a little emotional.
She's been there when it's been the hardest, you know? When we want to break down, she's there. So, oh my God, I don't know why I'm crying so much.
When Yvette was diagnosed with leukemia as a child, Bass tapped into her experience as a nurse practitioner.
I managed her care for 2.5 years. She was with me. As a matter of fact, she was here at Community Coalition. I had a special couch in my office, and I would go with her for her chemo, and then afterwards she would come back here and sleep.
She was there when I got diagnosed. She was there with all my appointments. She was just with me every step of the way.
Thankfully, Yvette beat that cancer. But years later, the family was devastated by tragedy when Emilia, then 23, and her husband Michael were both killed in a car crash on the 405.
I remember that day, you know, like it was yesterday, and I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like a personal earthquake. And people will tell you in time it gets better, and it's just not true. A traumatic loss like that never goes away.
I mean, we're still processing it to this day, so that's a tough question. I don't think it's something we'll ever get over.
And it took me years to realize like how devastated I was about it. I mean, I still am.
They say Emilia was becoming more politically active right before her death.
The last thing in the world she wanted to do was to be an activist. But in the last couple of years in college, that's absolutely the direction she was going.
Her sisters say Emilia helped them find their voice.
Whenever she saw any injustice.
Yeah, she would point it out right away
Yeah.
and let us know.
We think about her all the time. We talk about her all the time. I named my son after my brother-in-law.
Michael.
Michael and his cousin Henry have both brought Bass extraordinary joy as her grandsons.
What is Karen Bass, the grandmother, like?
Now, Karen Bass, the grandmother, spoils her boys.
What does Grandma mean to you?
She means a lot to me.
She's nice, and she takes care of us.
My boys, my grandsons.
After attending Grandma's events, they're beginning to love politics. Bass says she first developed that love watching the news on TV every night with her dad.
My father, you know, shaped my worldview just in terms of interpreting the news, and my mother raised me with the spirit of being kind. In other words, she used to say there is just no reason not to be nice. And that is something that has been instilled in me and my 3 brothers. So I was the only girl, 3 brothers, and so that certainly prepared me for the mailed world of politics.
Before she ever entered politics, Bass was in medicine as a nurse practitioner, working in the emergency room at County USC Medical Center.
A lot of my patients were homeless or suffering, you know, as a crime victim. So a lot of the social issues that led to people being in the emergency room, I just had a burning desire to address why they were in the emergency room to begin with.
In 1992, she formed the Community Coalition to help the community overcome its substance abuse issues.
We had crack cocaine, we had the Crips, we had the Bloods. In 1 year, we had 1,000 homicides. So what I did, which some people thought was crazy at the time, I went to the epicenter of the violence and of the problems to say we have got to get together, because the only thing elected officials were proposing were laws to lock people up. And to me, addiction was a health problem, and gang violence was a social and an economic issue. Obviously, it was a crime problem too, but the only solution they had was to incarcerate people.
Thank you.
In 2018, we were on hand as Bass welcomed civil rights icon John Lewis to Cocoa.
We got it going on at the Freedom School.
He met with the young people who are mentored here. That's been happening here since the start.
I felt if we could recruit high school students and get them involved in political activism, then they would have a better outlet for their desire to be rebellious and would not join gangs.
That's you right there?
That's me right there. I was a senior in high school.
Hector Sanchez first met Bass in high school. 32 years later, he's the deputy political director for Community Coalition.
What Karen was able to do was actually engage us about the issues that are impacting our community.
Bass's activism at Community Coalition led to voters asking her to run for the state assembly. She'd become California's first female assembly speaker, then be elected to Congress, where she was almost selected as Joe Biden's vice president. Her life was pretty comfortable in Washington when a vet first pitched an idea to her before anybody else did.
So a vet came to you, right?
Yes.
And said, you should run for mayor.
Yes.
And what did you say to her?
I said, are you crazy?
We went through all of her talking points and told her, each thing where we felt like she can really make a difference and help solve, especially homelessness.
I heard the call from all of you and from within my heart. Los Angeles, you have called me home and I'm ready to serve.
Bass says when she officially entered that race, she reflected on her activism here all those years ago.
I have a responsibility for those who are less fortunate. And it is how I've devoted my life, and it's how I will continue to devote my life. And the reason why, again, I decided to run is because we now have all of these people sleeping on the street.
Bass sees a lot of similarities between now and when Community Coalition first started.
I feel we're at another inflection point in our city where we have another crisis. And I'm so worried that policymakers are getting ready to repeat the same mistakes, which is a punitive response to an overwhelming social, economic, and health problem.
After the recent leaked recording showing members of the LA City Council making racist comments while trying to draw district lines, Bass is leaning into her decades of work bringing together the black and brown communities.
The problem is inequity. So dividing the city up like a piece of pie in 15 slices does not address the disproportionate problems in inner city areas with basic city services, with unemployment, with homelessness, with violence. So we have to address those issues, and I'm looking forward to bringing civic leaders together to come up with a specific action plan, which will be a series of policy proposals that will help move us forward. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you.
Her family says they'll be by her side the entire journey.
I love her to death, and I think the city will too.